I'm Mary Kelly, and I'm Senior Counsel for Rivers and Deltas at Environmental Defense Fund.
My name is Amy Hardberger, and I'm an attorney at Environmental Defense Fund. I grew up in a family of West Texas farmers and ranchers, so water got discussed a lot around the table, even though you couldn't really see it anywhere. Everything from the rivers that were running, when they were running, groundwater, and rain was a pretty important topic for us.
Well, for me, I grew up in the desert, and so water is life, and you couldn't wait to get down to the river because it was shady and cool, and that's where all the life is in the desert.
Oftentimes the water that you don't see ends up being the most important water of all. Because when you see water everywhere, it tends to be lower on people's minds and priority lists. Those little oases of water, oases of water being really, really important, not just for nature, but for you and your enjoyment. And I remember when I was little, there was many more playa lakes up in West Texas, grass around it and turtles and snakes and fish, and you could swim in there and cool off, and that water ended up being pretty important for us.
So there's nothing like floating a river in the middle of the desert, being on the Rio Grande in this deep canyon, and all around you is rock and desert. You're on the water, and on the sides of the river are where all the birds are and the trees, and that's the only green around. Same thing in the Grand Canyon. There's nothing like water in the desert. My career has ended up focusing on how to legally protect water in the rivers, getting a changing Western water law, which was developed in the 19th and 20th century when our population was a fraction of what it is now. And in the rapidly growing Southwest, which is where I come from, how do you legally ensure that the rivers retain the water they need to stay healthy? That's fun because it really is kind of trying to evolve a whole area of law to meet modern needs. And
I think one of the things that you don't realize is that these things that are talked about around the dinner table, how much when you're a kid, how much they end up impacting the things that you do when you grow up. I've always been a little obsessed with water. I've probably been made fun of about that almost my whole life. I'm pretty proud of that. I think if you're going to be interested in something, that's a pretty good one. Having family that lived off of the water depended on the water for their livelihood. Growing up in Central Texas, where an aquifer was the sole source of our water, that was always what I wanted to do when I grew up, and lucky me, that's what I get to do every day.